We'll just get started. So, hey, everybody, welcome to the Just Ask Vodcast. This is episode number 9. I'm really excited to have Peter Kloczko come on from the Hungarian Experiment. Peter, thank you so much for
Of
joining me.
course, man. Thank you so much for having me on here. As I was mentioning right before this, it's opportunities like this that help to get you out of your comfort zone, help to practice exact things like this, speaking and how to articulate yourself. So I really appreciate being here on your show, and especially for something that's, so niched as this. I think this is very important, what a lot of people need to get on, especially with the social media age. You got to be putting yourself out there more. So this is great. Thank you so much, Ben.
Awesome. I'm glad to have you. So let's jump right in. Actually, I gotta do one of those. I gotta do a one clap. It's turned into my thing now, just for just editing purposes. Then I could just find that point, and it's like, okay, this is good. Do you remember the first time that you did a video that you kind of put yourself out there?
Yeah, no, 100%. So I was actually having a live chat with one of my buddies from Switzerland the other day, and we were looking back and thinking about this. And I realized once I discovered that, I'm going to do YouTube, I'm going to put myself out there, that I really didn't give myself much practice. Because one thing I noticed from other YouTubers and other people who put themselves out there in the world is that there is a lot of growth and development that comes with putting yourself out there in front of the camera and practicing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So my very first video, if you guys want to go check it out at the Hungarian Experiment YouTube channel, my first video ever is me just raw and real. Like, there's no fakeness. It's me. Like, I'm literally sitting there in front of the camera, like talking like a machine. And I did that on purpose. I didn't want to practice because I knew that over the years, you'd be able to see the kind of growth and change that comes from it. So I remember very vividly my first video. It was so nerve-wracking, so scary. I was like, oh my God, what are all these people going to think about me? And then ever since then, it's just been super easy. Just keep going with it and putting yourself out there.
Right. I think it's interesting too that you've kept, like, that video is still up there. And I think that's really neat that you've kept it up there, because I feel like there's some people that might go and delete it. Like, once they get so far, they'd be like, you know what? I don't want people to know that at one point I sucked. Or at one point I was nervous to get in the camera. Like, I remember the first time that I went live on the Think Millennial show. Both Matt and I were like on the edge of the couch, like, just, we're both dressed up in like full suits, and we're on the edge of the couch. We're just like deadpan into the camera, and we're like very serious the whole time. So I can definitely relate. I can definitely relate to that. Do you still get nervous when you like hit that button to go live or hit that button to record?
To be honest, not anymore. And it's just come from a lot of experience, a lot of practice, and a lot of putting myself out of my comfort zone. So if people here watching or listening do end up checking out my YouTube channel, that's basically everything I do is about experimenting with new concepts that you're interested and passionate about, and putting yourself out of that comfort zone. So a lot of what I've been doing recently is like things like Wim Hof method, where I'll go sit and meditate out in the snow. And it's concepts like that when you break down those barriers, or you break down those limiting beliefs that you have about yourself and the things you can accomplish in your own life, it makes all the barriers in other areas of your life come down as well too. So over the years of just constantly putting myself on video, constantly putting myself out of my comfort zone, I remember going to one of the first Millennial Network groups meetups here in London, and that was like super nerve-wracking for me. But I was just like, look, this is something I want to do. This is who I want to be. So I'm just going to go out there and do it. And after, once you step on that stage, or once you're a minute into that video, or once you're 10 to 15 seconds into that conversation, all those nerves kind of go away. And the more comfortable you are with yourself, the easier that becomes. So I'm all about that, putting yourself out of your comfort zone, trying to get comfortable with things that people in society have said, like, look, you can't do this, or you can't accomplish that. And I think there's so much potential we have as human beings, and so much we can accomplish. So
Definitely. And pushing yourself is exactly what you continue to do on the Hungarian Experiment. Do you want to share a little bit more about the Hungarian
yeah,
Experiment?
of course. So when I first started, I I'll just start from the beginning. I kind of had the marks to go to university and everything, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to spend all of the years and time doing something I wasn't 100% passionate about. So I actually went to school to become a resource drilling and blasting technician in Fleming College, just outside of Peterborough. And I took that because it was a 2-year program. It wasn't all that expensive, and most people got a job right out of the bat. So I was like, look, I'm just going to do this because it's something easy and comfortable. And I put
Yeah.
myself,
Checks all the
yeah, it was
boxes.
just like, okay, this is easy, and I can get all my money back. And that way, if something I discover I don't like this, I can always get out of it. So
Right.
I read a book while I was in that mind. I won't dive too deep into that. If people want to hear about that or see that, they got to go check out my YouTube channel. But I read this book that completely
Definitely.
changed my life and my idea about who I want to be and what I want to do for myself. And so I came back to London, quit that job. I realized I needed to get out of that mind. It was ruining my health. It was ruining my physical nature as well as my mental nature. And I started experimenting with different concepts and ideas, and that's where I discovered YouTube. And I saw all these health and fitness people just vlogging their day-to-day life, and I found it super fascinating and interesting. And I was learning so much from these people, just giving their honest feedback and their own life experiences. And I was like, you know what? I think this is something I really want to do. So I just studied people for about 8 months, and then I came out with my first video there. But it's all about documenting long term the effects different life factors have on us as human beings.
Right.
So if it first started out with a lot of health and fitness stuff, like I've done intermittent fasting now for about 8 years. People don't know what that is. It's basically where you don't eat for a large portion of the day. So I typically fast anywhere between 16 to 22 hours a day. I literally get nothing but
Right.
water and coffee. And there are many, many different benefits to that, mental benefits, physical benefits. But one of the biggest things that I found is that there's a huge increase in your growth hormone output, especially in men. If you fast for 18 to 22 hours, there's a 1,500 to 2,000% increase in your growth hormone levels.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I read that, and then all the stuff I understood, your growth hormones directly correlated to your testosterone levels. Like, this is a natural way just to get a whole lot more testosterone into your body. And the more I just kept doing that, I also experimented with concepts like stomach vacuums. So I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger at this time, late 2014s, early 2015s, was talking about how the bodybuilding industry is just getting all crazy. It's not about aesthetics anymore. It's all about just getting big and huge as possible. And he was discussing how back in his day was all about having a nice tight midsection and having that, broad shoulders and an aesthetic physique. So I started analyzing, what gives you that slim waist, and how do you develop that? What kind of
Okay. Yeah.
physical exercises? And it's one of the big things is this stomach vacuum. So I literally did this abdominal exercise every single day for a year straight, 5 times every single day. And you can see over the course of the videos the changes that occur from this. And I'm not going to talk too much about it, but if people want to go check it out, you can see that over that year, my body fat levels really didn't change at all. Like, I still am quite lean, but I lost 4 to 6 inches off my waist. So I used to be about a 32 to a 34 waist. And after doing this exercise, I'm now, and even like 2 or 3 years later, I don't do them very consistently, but now I'm down to a 28 to 30 waist. And that, I believe, is
Wow.
all because of that exercise. And you can literally see over the months the changes that occurred to my body. Now, along with that too, just recently I started experimenting around with the neurohacking experiments. So I met a very
Mhm.
interesting gentleman here in London, Ontario. His name's Ben Switzer. He actually he got bit by a tick when he was like 5, maybe 10 years ago or something, and the tick gave him Lyme disease. He went
Yeah.
to about 12 to 14 different doctors. They all misdiagnosed him. So for about a year or two, he had Lyme disease in his body, and it started shutting down his mental functions. His legs shut down on him. And until he met one doctor who was like, finally, like, I have an idea on how we can eradicate this from your body. So they did like a full blood transfusion, and they managed to eradicate the Lyme disease from his body, which is
Wow.
amazing. And that's something very new as well, too. But because of how long he was going with this disease in his body, he cognitively was not all there. So he started researching how he can enhance his cognitive abilities. He was doing meditation, taking nootropics, manipulated his diet, started doing things like intermittent fasting, and as well as changed his physical exercise. And he's a very smart man. So to understand that, 4 to 5 years ago, his IQ was so much lower is actually shocking to me. So,
That is shocking, and I've met Ben a couple
oh
times,
yeah.
and to hear this story, I had never heard the story before, so that's fascinating.
His whole story is in the neurohacking experiment series if people are interested in going to check that out. But basically, I hopped on his cognitive enhancement program. So the same kind of concepts that he did upon himself, but we customized it to to me because I wanted to increase my focus and my productivity.
Right.
So we actually did brain scan EEG readings before the experiment as well as after the experiments. And there's huge changes that you can see through these assessments and the brain scans that we got done. So for myself, like that's a huge thing that I was like, wow, like this is something you can't physically see on your body. Just kind of like the stomach
Right.
vacuums where you're like, wow, there's a huge change. But like outside, like me looking from inside out, it's like I see the world in a different light. Yeah. And then following
Nice.
those experiments, I've actually began the microdosing experiments. So right now I'm experimenting around with microdosing magical mushrooms and psychedelics.
Mhm.
And a very controversial thing, but just like with marijuana and how the laws and legality and the way people look at it is changing, I think the same thing's about to happen with mushrooms over the coming decade, where people start realizing
Hmm.
there's a lot of therapeutic benefits to it. So yesterday I actually had a microdosing day, and I do it every 3 to 4 days, and just a greater level of understanding, connectedness to my body, to my like the mind to muscle connection is just
Yeah.
insane. So um, I don't suggest everyone experiment around with it. I think it's an experience that everyone does need to experience over the course of their life, but it's something that needs to be very experimented with in a very methodical way. And that's what I try to
Right.
document through my YouTube channel, is that you are a human experiment, just as I am, just as everyone is in this world. We all have these different factors that affect us, and you need to learn for yourself on how to optimize these tools. So I just see everything in life as a tool that we can optimize and utilize for ourselves. So
That's amazing. What do you and like I love seeing when I talk to people, seeing their eyes just light up, their face light up in that moment when they start talking about their passion and what they love. What do you enjoy most about documenting your journey and putting that out there?
So honestly, it's about the whole like the journey in total, and that's one of the big things that's like when I'm in these psychedelic experiences is like I see my full journey sometimes, and it's more meaningful than the small experiments and seeing the huge changes that might come from them. And I believe it's just, I'm so passionate about documenting this whole journey and creating something. So what I like to say on my channel is I'm trying to create a resource that I always wanted as a child and a teen, something that I could find that, wow, I could get almost every kind of answer from this human being and just their true open and honest experiences. So for
Right.
myself, I believe, and this all has to do with that book I read in the Mind, is that I believe I understand what my life task is now. And it took a lot of discovering about the things that I was truly passionate about in life. And that took a lot of experimenting with different concepts and
Right.
ideas to find those passions. But now I'm just, everything I do in my life, I'm truly passionate about. So it's like I wake up and I just like, I love it. It's the whole grind, the journey. And I kind of see it all together right now. So it's the whole journey. I'm just passionate about it all.
That's awesome. And would you say, like, we often talk about, like, do you have any like rituals before you hit the record button? But I'm guessing that it's much more natural for you, and it's just because it's you recording your day to day and the different experiments that you do. It's much more natural.
Yeah, and that's all because I've just put myself out of my comfort zone right
Right.
now as well too. I'm also I don't just run my own YouTube channel. I actually run several other people's YouTube channel and their social media content here in London. Um, One gentleman I actually live in the house here with, and we're living in Byron. We rented out this place and we're rent hacking it. He's a real estate investor here in London, so he's going through the exact same experiences, the exact same kind of learning curves, the kind of nervousness that comes, and as well too, like we also host events and we stand on stages and we do lots of stuff like that. So it's more now I see it beyond my own journey where it's like, oh, I have to do this for myself. It's like now I'm putting myself in this position and almost really trying to experiment with it so I can relay that information to my other clients or to people that I want to get upon their own journeys in life. So it's very natural now. But again, in the beginning, it was like, I really want to learn this stuff through and through, understand the theories and fundamentals. So that way I can pass this on to someone else. So that way,
Right.
honestly, for myself, like I always say, like I really enjoy this being behind a microphone. I have to be behind the camera right now, but for the future, this is I believe this is my kind of shit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it just feels
Hmm.
good, right? You feel like you're in that you've got that flow going when you get behind the
Oh yeah.
mic. Yeah, yeah. Do you have any for our viewers, for our listeners, do you have any tips for somebody that maybe is hesitant or have those like those nervous jitters to kind of be that take that first jump to hit the record button and record themselves?
Well, I would say just do it. So, unlike for my journey where I was just like, I'm just going to put myself out there and put it all online first, is start recording and you don't even need to put that video out yet. But you're going to see how you articulate yourself to the camera or to the microphone. And you're going to be like, wow, was that even important? The thing I was talking about? Like, why am I talking about something I don't care about? Because that's one thing I realize I get in conversations with people and it's like, wow, we're kind of talking about nothing here, but it's more because we feel the need to talk rather than we're actually
Right.
saying things we care about or we're passionate about. So, what I tell, because I have a lot of real estate investors who come up to me after I'm working with my clients and they're just like, I want you to come work for me. I was like, this really isn't hard. First, I want to see you even just put yourself out there because I can come to you with all the nice equipment and all the nice lighting, but if you're not ready to give your full self to the camera or to the mic, then you're just not going to give it all. So for anyone out there who's questioning is just start recording yourself, because a day or two later when you go watch that and you're going to be like, wow, that's how I sound, that's how I look. I messed up that sentence, but now I know how to say that better next time. So
Right. Right. And that's so important to go back and take that time to reflect on yourself. Just and that can be some people can be a little nervous about that too, right? But that's so important to go back and just make sure, like you said, to be able to learn like some words. Like for me, when I first started, and I still throw it in every now and again, everything I was super excited about.
yeah.
No matter like any videos, if you go back to any of the early MNG stuff or the early Think Millennial stuff, it's like, oh, and I'm super excited and da da da. So now I try and change that around, and sometimes I use it as like just funny because I know there's certain people that will call me on it when I put it out there. But it's important to know whether or not like you throw in uhs or ums or and I mean sometimes that's just authentically you, but it's also something that you can work on to become more articulate with your words.
100%. I completely agree. And something else that I would suggest for people out there is don't try not to put any emotional weight into it. It's very Eckhart Tolle, power of now kind of way to look at it, is that, you know, we're only here in the present. So I think it's important to objectively look at your past and objectively look into your future, but not to put emotional weight into it. So if you look at that video of you after and get like all angry or upset or like nervous or scared, that you just have to look at it and be like, okay, this is what I need to do better next time. And again, look at to the future, be like, hey, this is what I need to do. And the more emotions you put into the past or to the future and things you can't change, that's just going to affect everything. But the more comfortable you are with the
Right.
right here, the right now, being in the present and trying to be there as much as possible. Like even when you're driving your car or you're, riding the bus or you're at the gym or whatever you have to do, is trying to be like, get all that other noise out of your head and be in the now as much as possible, will transition over to when you're in front of the camera as well.
Definitely, definitely. And can you speak to the importance of storytelling? I mean, not only in like your YouTube channel, The Hungarian Experiment is kind of like one big story, right? It's your story. Can you speak to the importance of storytelling in your videos and also in your clients' videos?
100%. I'll actually take this away from my videos. So, um, what we do as a team, so we're on top of our game, is we actually go to conferences around the world to study from people and experts in the field. So we were actually in January or February, we were in Miami for the 10X Growth Con. And there was this
Nice.
very interesting gentleman. I've never heard about him before, but his name was Pete Vargas. And he taught everyone how he managed to get himself up on that stage. And it was all about telling the story, because if you are on a stage, or a stage can be like this podcast that we're on, or a video, like these are all stages where you're telling your story, or you're trying to sell something to someone, whatever it is,
Right.
you're on that stage for a reason. And a big thing that he made me realize is that you have to really connect with people. So uh, what he says here is that 70% of people are very emotional when they're either buying, or when they're listening to someone on stage, and about 30% of people are very technical. So if you go on stage and you tell your story, and you manage to connect with those people, you're going to win over that 70%. Then through the second part of you being on stage, you really get technical and you break things down. So then you've won over that other 30%. But then you almost have to wrap it up by hitting on those people's emotions again, to bring that emotion back into people. So I think it's very important to try to connect with your audience, make them see how you are relatable to them, as well as how you've managed to grow and be someone that they aspire to be. Or else, why would they care to listen to you? But then you have to
Right.
then you break it down and show them, oh, that's very technical. It's like this, like this. Like, you got to do it like that to get here. But then you got to come back into it and you relay. And look, we're all just kind of human beings here, exploring,
Right.
experimenting. So one person that I'd really suggest people go check out is Pete Vargas. He will really make you question how you are portraying yourself on stage. And almost everyone who was on stage before them mentioned how that last speaker, this Pete Vargas guy, like, improved their sales rates while they were on stage by telling their story, their exact
Wow.
same story, just in a different way, and how to funnel it around. And for me, that made me really realize that, like, I can be so technical. I can be so, this is exactly how everything works for all my experiments. But if you don't really connect with people, then it doesn't really matter. So I think
Right.
storytelling is a huge, huge part of it.
Awesome. And I mean, with storytelling too, it's important to be authentic, to create that connection. Do you have any tips for individuals that maybe like that they can use to kind of quickly generate that connection? Is that possible, or is it a long game that you have to play?
I think it all has, again, to be connected into you being comfortable and understanding about yourself and your own journey. I think that's what a lot of people, when they're not comfortable, it affects their story. So if they're uncomfortable with presenting, they can have an awesome story, but it's not going to come out the right way. Or they can be totally
Right.
comfortable up there, but not really know how to tell their story. So it's kind of a combination of both. Is really if you want to talk to people on stage or create your own videos, you really got to know yourself and know who you are. And
Right.
that takes a lot of self discovery, a lot of experimentation, a lot of personal growth and development. And sometimes that's just starting with, like, similar with me for a year or two, was just putting my videos out there and dealing with that criticism until I got to a level where I'm completely fine and comfortable with myself. So
Nice. What do you hope to achieve through sharing your message?
To be honest, I want to create a whole network of people who are doing something very similar to myself. So they're documenting their lives in a scientific way, so that way we could study them. So I want to create a whole
Right.
network of human experiments around the world. That's kind of my ultimate goal with all this.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Do you have a morning routine? That's one question that I've been kind of throwing it in just to kind of see how everybody kind of wakes up and gets their day started.
For sure. So, um, in the beginning, and to really figure out certain experiments or how certain factors were affecting me, I used to live a very, very structured lifestyle, but that has changed over time. So, for instance, last week we were in Winnipeg. The month before that, we were in Miami. Some days I'm recording for 2 or 3 days straight, where other days, like today, I get to chat with you. But for the hours before this, I was literally just sitting on a couch editing for 4 or 5 hours. So what I
Right.
like to say is that life is very situational. So I've learned how to adapt a situational lifestyle onto my own life by heavily experimenting with all these different things. So honestly, right
Mhm.
now, no, I do not have a structured morning routine or a structured lifestyle or anything like that. But I think it's very important to have that so you know how to take advantage of these different things. So, um, for
Right.
instance, like with intermittent fasting and all that eating and the way of eating, if I didn't have a structured morning routine back then, I would not know how the intermittent fasting was properly uh, how where am I going with this? How I was utilizing it in the best way because other factors were probably
Right.
skewing the results. But now that I
Right.
really know how everything affects me, it's kind of like I just try to take the best parts of everything and apply it to my life. So yeah, no morning routine, unfortunately, right now.
Awesome. Cool. Well, you know what? I think our viewers can take all of the best parts of this interview. Thank you so much for chatting with me, Peter. Really appreciate it. The Hungarian Experiment. This has been episode number 9 of the Just Ask Vodcast. Thank you so much for joining me, Peter.
Of course, thank you for having me on here again, Ben. This is great.
Awesome. Thank you.